Hey, glad you're back. I had a conversation today, and so I'm going to do a video that's not quite the one I was going to do next, so you'll have to wait till Friday for the next one. That follows up on the church being the voice of Satan, but this one is related. See, for me to have expectations of the church whereby the church disappoints me, fails me, and I call the church hypocritical or church people hypocritical, that statement itself is hypocritical because I'm expecting a standard of idealism from them that I don't match because I'm not perfect and I don't do things right all the time or treat people right all the time. And the church is not some mysterious other entity. The church is a gathering of people. So the idea that the church would be perfect in any way, shape, or form is a completely unrealistic expectation. Here's the fair expectation we should have from the church, and this is what today's video is going to be about. The fair expectation we should have from the church is that they would teach the story that God has been trying to tell us in the Bible from the beginning. If the church teaches any other story, it's serving as the voice of Satan because it's taking us away from God and away from Jesus and onto some other track. And there are a myriad of those tracks, and we could spend eternity examining them all. It would be pointless. The point is to come to who is Jesus and what is his story. So the conversation that I had today was with a person who belongs to the church, goes to church, who struggles to understand the story, which, fair enough. We all struggle to understand the story. And the biggest reason why we struggle to understand God's story for what it is because it's contrary to everything that's normal and natural around us in this world. So this past weekend I was in church and I was getting ready to go up and preach, and someone came into my office with another person close behind them and asked me if I had a few minutes, which pretty tight, but anyway, they came in and the conversation between them was about God's love. Is it conditional? Is it unconditional? And I listened to both of them as quickly as I could, and I could see right away that they were saying the same thing, but coming at it from different angles, which made it sound like they were saying different things. So one person was very concerned that God's love is definitely unconditional, and the other person was concerned with the reality that, no, there are conditions. Here's the truth. God's love is unconditional in this sense. The Bible says that when we were still sinners, still rejecting God, didn't care one lick about him, doing our own thing, just like many people are today, don't give God a second thought, doing their own thing. While we were fully in that condition as humanity, Jesus came, lived, loved, and died for us. He didn't come because we asked him to come. He didn't come because we deserved him to come. He didn't come because we were worthy for him to come. He didn't die for us because we were worth dying for in any other measurement except that he loved us. There was no other reason. We didn't meet any conditions. We didn't reach any standard. Nothing. So foreign to us is this idea that God would do that without condition. It just, that when I explain it to people, they just don't get it. It flies in the face of everything. And so the greatest barrier to coming back to God, for those who grew up in church, which is the main reason why I started this YouTube channel, is that we have this mindset of value and worth and earning and deserving. It's a criteria that God doesn't operate on. He just loves us. Period. Jesus came to live and die because he loves us. Period. Some people will try and say, if there was only one person who was going to accept Jesus, he would have come and did it. No. He would have come and done it no matter if nobody was going to choose him. Because love is love. And he would have done it so that everybody had the option to choose him. Whether or not they were going to or not, would not have changed what he was going to do. Not one bit. Love loves because that's what love is. So again, this is so foreign to us that when I use the example, the day Jesus was dying on the cross, the first day he was put there was a thief put on the cross beside him on one side and a thief put on the cross beside him on the other side. Both criminals, both deserving to be there. Well, We could debate whether or not they judged that kind of punishment, but they were criminals. And what most people don't know is that the Bible tells us that at the beginning of the day, when all three of them were there, the crowd was yelling, "Crucify him." They were telling Jesus to save himself. They were mocking him, "Oh, come down from the cross," if blah, 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 blah. And both thieves were participating in that mocking of Jesus. Both of them. We often forget that or miss that because later on, at some point, one of them looked at Jesus, the way he was relating to this taunting and the way he was acting and the way he was reacting, and they realized this guy he's legit. And he turns to Jesus and he says, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus says, "I'm telling you today, forget remembering you later. I'm telling you today that you will be with me in paradise." And I use that example with people to say, listen, the thief was on the cross because he was a criminal. He was a bad dude. He died. So he never had a chance to come down, to get baptized, to say he was sorry to anyone, to pay anyone back. He never had a chance to do one lick of anything good. All he could do was appeal to the mercy of Jesus. And Jesus accepted him. And recently when I used that example with someone, they said, well, he's an exception. An exception to what? God is consistent. I am the Lord, and I don't change. He doesn't make exceptions. We make exceptions. We'll be nice to this person and not nice to this person. We'll sell something at this price for this person at a different price for a different person and give it free to somebody else because we're not consistent. God is uber consistent. He is who he is, and he is who he is all the time. So he doesn't make exceptions. If Jesus could accept that guy with no qualifications whatsoever other than appealing to his mercy, then the cost of benefiting from the love of Jesus is zero. It's absolutely zero. So then what are the conditions? Earlier you said two people came into your office and one said conditions, one said no conditions. The conditions are on the relationship. Jesus offers himself to us fully and freely. The only thing Jesus cannot do in the relationship is respond for us. We have to choose whether or not we want to respond. I can ask someone to marry me. I can do everything I can to make that decision easy for them, but I can't make the decision for them. The yes or the no is up to them. Once the relationship starts, and both agree we're in a relationship now, there are conditions on that relationship. The relationship will thrive or die based on how they relate to each other in that relationship. The thing with Jesus, he's never going to leave you nor forsake you. That relationship will never die on his account. You're saying, well, if it's on my account, it's going to die because I'm this and I'm that and I'm not this and I'm not that. Jesus knows everything about you. Everything. He knows you better than you know yourself. He knows you inside, upside, outside, up, every which way. Think of his requirements, his conditions. He says, love the Lord, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. You say, oh man, that's daunting. No. Think about what he said. All your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. Your mind might be messed up. Your heart might be broken into a million pieces. Your soul might be shattered. And your strength might be almost gone. He didn't say, love me with perfect strength, perfect heart, perfect mind, perfect soul. He said, love me with all of your heart, your mind, your soul, your strength. Give me what you have, and I will make something beautiful. I was considering this week on a completely other tangent, and I have a lot of things going on, so this is just one of them. Um, think about this. In the Bible, there are several stories of God taking little and making much with it. So maybe the most famous one is when he was teaching to a crowd. They'd been there for at least all day. I think it might even have been more than a day. And they were hungry. And he turns to his disciples and says, hey, these people have been here for a long time. They're tired. They're hungry. Let's feed them. And of course, one starts counting the costs. We don't have the food. We don't have the money to buy food. Typical, right? And the deeper lesson there is when we think of anything God-related or our faith or anything along that line, we're like, I don't measure up. I don't have enough. I don't. So Jesus says, what do you have? And they bring him one little boy's lunch. 5 loaves, 2 small fish. There's 5,000 men plus women and children. Jesus doesn't have them seat the crowd. He prays. He begins to break up the food, pass it out. Fed all the people. Had 12 baskets full left over. He took nothing, almost nothing, and look what he did with it. Another story. Woman had no food left. She had a little bit of flour and a little bit of olive left to make one little loaf of bread. Her and her son were going to eat it and die. God took that, and they had oil every day, flour every day. Another woman was in debt. Her children were going to be taken by the debtors as payment. She was told to gather up as many empty jars, go to all your neighbors, anyone, anywhere, whatever you can find, every empty jar you could possibly get and get it. Take the little bit of oil you have left and start filling the jars. So a little bit of oil in one jar, she just keeps pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring. Fills all the jars. She could have filled more jars if she had more empty jars. And that's the point. There's nothing God cannot do if we give him everything. And your everything might seem like nothing to you. It might seem like less than nothing to you. God knows. He knows everything. Like, you don't have to hide in the corner like Adam and Eve running behind a tree to hide your shame. You don't have to. He knows. Where are you? Who told you that your condition is a barrier against what God can do? You've been to the tree, haven't you? If you haven't seen that video, go back. 3 questions God has for you. Where are you? Who told you that? You've been to the tree. See, we have expectations of ourselves. We have expectations of the church. And they're all backwards and mixed up. The only perfect person in all of this realm is him. We are broken, naked, shattered, shameful, guilty. On our best days, we have mixed up motives. Our thought life is screwed up. Yet inside of every one of us is the person God designed for us to be. And the moment that we put our hand and reach out to his hand and let him come into our lives and give him all of our broken heart and all of our messed up mind and all of our twisted thoughts and all of it. Here I am. The moment we do that, Jesus begins to restore us. But catch this. The restoration will come. And that's where people trip over themselves. Well, I'm not restored enough. I'm not this enough. I don't have enough, blah, 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 blah. Jesus will do it. You give yourself to him and he will do it. But here's the best news. You are his from the moment that you say, Jesus, I want you in my life. I want you to take me, mold me, shape me, do whatever it is you can do with this mess that I am. He can and he will. And any other voice, whether it comes from within you, whether it comes from a church, whether it comes from your family, whether it comes from past experiences that Wherever those voices come from that say you're not enough, you won't make it where? You're His. The moment you say yes to Him, you're His. End of story. We'll see you next video.